Welcome back to the Four Pillar Podcast, where we stand for faith, family, fitness, and finance, baby, in that order. And welcome to the new episode. I have a special guest in here. I'm super excited to get to talk to him about some business and different things. It is Caleb Oakes, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and talk about what all he does. He has a lot of experience in business. Actually, when I first met Caleb, I'm obsessed with Alex Ramosi. If you don't know who that is, it's like a gym business guy. And I mean, you told me you went to like his workshop or seminar as a part of his gym launch thing. He sold real estate financing options and been in real estate. And he's just recently started his own business coaching business, right? Business coaching business. You're coaching other businesses how to grow their business and scale appropriately and be more successful and potentially use less time
for sure
as well too. But go ahead and go ahead and introduce yourself, Caleb.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Ian. So Caleb Oakes with Action Coach. We are a global coaching enterprise. So we do everything by the numbers in Action Coach. By the numbers, we're the number one coaching enterprise in the world. And we really help businesses with two things specifically: is turning their business into a cash flowing asset. They no longer have to be the operator, the hardest working employee in, or selling. So basically, every business has a start date. Very few businesses have an end date. And what I mean by that is it works without you. If you just left your business for 3 months and went to Fiji, is it going to grow, stagnate, or fall back while you're gone? That's a healthy business, right? That's the definition. So my philosophy with people is I coach humans and humans fix businesses. I don't fix businesses, right? So everything I do, I actually just did what we call an alignment yesterday with one of our coaches. We use our own product. Mm-hmm. If you're working with a leader who doesn't have a mentor, that's a red flag for everyone listening.
Absolutely.
You always want to check who your leader's leader is, because that's what's trickling down to you. And if they can't be told by somebody else what's going on, maybe an ego thing. So I did an alignment with one of my trainers and coaches yesterday, and we do DISC behavioral personality test. Mm-hmm. We do this new thing called Positive Intelligence, which is not affiliated with us, but it is a great way to find saboteurs. So everybody in life has strengths that they have overdeveloped to compensate when they feel out of control.
Sorry, repeat that last part.
Yeah, everyone has saboteurs. So all of us with our personality set, with our giftings, when we feel out of control based on things in our life, like most of our survival now in everyday life is emotional survival. It's not really so much about physical. We all pretty much know where we're eating and where we're sleeping tonight. So now emotional survival becomes the main thing. Everyone's been through high school. Emotional survival, right?
So those that have made it anyway.
Those that have made it, right? GEDs count. So if you, at a certain point in life, you, based on how you were raised, what your social settings were, you started using things that you relied on. You labeled yourself antisocial, introvert, things like that, and then decided what things you were good at very subconsciously. Mm-hmm. And then as you went along in life, you started used certain protection mechanisms, coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And so there's probably usually 4 to 5 things that you rely on that are kind of like overdeveloped or kind of grotesque strengths that you use. People who are married are probably familiar with this in premarital counseling, where some people will revert to being intellectuals. So they'll become very logical. They'll question everything to death as a way to like avoid emotional conflict or avoid emotional intimacy, right? So this test kind of gets you in a spot where you can see what your natural saboteurs are subconsciously. Mm-hmm. And again, if you're married or in business, people who you're partnered with, key people, even with kids, you usually pick people whose saboteurs trigger yours or fit with yours. Mm-hmm. Right? There's like a dangerous cocktail of like attraction. It's the positive and negative qualities. And then you start to, as the relationships progress, fuse those together and react to each other. So that's a really important thing. And in business, you're sabotaging yourself in business without really knowing it. People say all the time, like, I don't know why I'm doing this, or they hold themselves at a certain income level without really meaning to.
Yeah.
So we'll do the DISC personality behavioral set, the saboteurs, and then we do Gallup Strength Finder usually as well. Mm-hmm. And that's an alignment. So those are all people things. Notice how all that was people and none of it was business.
Right.
Because none of the strategies for marketing that you want will ever get you anywhere if you're actually unplugging the bottom of your profit and letting it all drain out because of something you went through when you were 21. So,
right.
But yeah, that's just a quick rundown. So, yeah.
Yeah, I could ask you 50 questions about that because I think that's super awesome and a good way for people to think about things in business. Because really, I had somebody tell me this as well too. People tend to, when they start the business, they start a job, not a business, and they own a job. They don't own a business. And I think that's really important to think about when you're wanting to. There's nothing wrong with owning a job if that's what you want to do, but I don't think people know the difference between owning a job and owning a business. And I like the saboteur thing because I honestly I could reflect on things in my life, even running my business. So you said kind of essentially that if you felt like something is out of your control, you kind of resort to almost self-sabotaging yourself because of getting maybe hyper fixated on XYZ or something because you can't control that maybe or do that because you're struggling to deal with an unknown issue potentially, and that's super interesting.
For an example, like one of the third one for me was hypervigilance.
Okay.
So I have like this beautiful capacity to scan for danger at all times, and it's usually emotional danger. It's hell in social settings when you leave, and if you have this because you scan your brain constantly. Like when I said this and they didn't laugh as hard as I thought they should, are they mad at me for something? Right?
Yeah, I feel like everybody. I mean, I do.
Everyone has that to an extent, right? But no one knows how high theirs is until you kind of like compartmentalize it in a test, and then you're like, oh, I scored really high on that, so maybe I should chill a little on the second guessing. And what you can do is you can create emotional issues or conflict in relationships where there really wasn't any because you're overthinking it. So you can sabotage yourself that way. Most businesses, one of the thought exercises in Action Coach that's really good is like if you can imagine two parallel lines. And a person who says, I want to be a business owner to control my life more, they have the professional line here and the personal line here. And they say, I'm going to start a business and keep it separate from my personal life, and it'll be fantastic, and I'll have more control. And it inevitably crosses over into their personal life. And now, because it forces into their nights and their weekends and 60 hours a week type thing, they have a new job where they're the one on the chopping block.
Right.
And in Action Coach, we take this line and we push it back over. So we get back control of the personal life is one of the first things we do. And I remember talking to a gal who runs a nice breakfast spot. They're actually doing really well and expanding in Columbus. And I sat down with her on our first meeting, and I was like, how many hours a week do you work in your business? She's like 60. And I asked her another couple set of questions, and I got kind of the end, and I said, okay, ideal world, what would you like to do, blah, blah, blah. And I asked her these questions. She goes I was like, how much would you like to work? And she said 30. And even though she said those two numbers in the span of 40 minutes apart from each other, I had to sit there and hold them next to each other and say, do you realize you're working twice as much as you want to? And she just stared at me, and I was like, okay. And I saw the light bulb go off.
Right.
And she's doing really well, but that's for a lot of people. It is just like their business eventually just manhandles them, and they get there for freedom and realize the cost is higher, and they have no systems. They're just at the whim of the business.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Something that's interesting though too, that I think at some extent with a business that I've realized is, I'm not saying I think if you bring, I'm going to use politics for example, into your business, that can be a bad thing. Obviously, if you look at Bud Light, right?
Problem there.
And not knowing your audience either.
Yeah.
But one thing I've noticed though with businesses, I think you kind of you are the business and the business is you. And what I mean by that is they're still separate, as in you shouldn't work 100 hours a week.
Sure.
It's not healthy.
Sure.
But I think how you conduct yourself and how you live your life is coherently existent with your business.
Definitely.
And so like what I mean by that is, for an example, I'm super faith-based, and I am also very conservative on that side of things. Now, I don't just blast that stuff on social media on my business page, but I kind of allowed that to embrace that. That's my brand and who I am. And so I don't, like, before when I first started business, they were always like, you have to draw a hard line and keep them like this is what I've always, like, what I heard when I first started, and I thought was the correct way to do it. But as I've grown in business, I've realized that you're actually, I think, holding your brand back when you're not being yourself fully with things. I'm not like, I think Bud Light definitely overstepped that line still a little bit, but I've noticed I think it's actually developed my brand better because it's more legitimate. Because and honestly as well too, I had a problem at one point where I think I wasn't okay with. Well, Grant Cardone said this, right? If 50% of people don't hate you or aren't mad at you, then you're not doing something right.
Sure.
Because that means you don't stand for anything. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's polarizing, right? Like your beliefs are polarizing. And I just had this conversation with an executive at a nonprofit yesterday that she's kind of like, I don't want people to say my name from stage and recognition. I don't want to be put to the forefront and stuff like that because she's a servant leader. She's in a nonprofit.
Yeah.
The deal with that, though, is that people want to latch onto you as a leader. They're
Absolutely.
looking to you, right? So when I say there's a professional line and a personal line, I mean, that's the job, too, people who are working at 9 to 5. What I mean with that is not so much that you're not the fabric of your business should reflect the owner, but I mean when this starts to manhandle, when it starts to infringe on putting kids down for bed, or I'm not taking this vacation, that's what I'm saying when it comes back across that line. It's not so much that you shouldn't be present in your brand, because you definitely should be.
Yeah.
And if your brand is whitewashed, or if there's just nothing in it because you're so professional, people, especially in 2025, will not latch on to it. There's no authenticity, right?
Yeah.
They want to see you as a person. And we're not all the same, so we congregate toward the people who have the same values, beliefs, as we do for the most part, and it's good to be exposed to that. So yeah, I totally agree with the fact that you should have representation of yourself in the brand to an extent, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree with you as well. Yeah.
I have a question for you, though, because
absolutely.
as we're talking on personal stuff, because what I see, like someone said this the other day in a training I was in, they said, the earliest death stroke of a business is when you go into business for something that you like to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the problem with that, I mean, the reason for it, some people cringed at that, but it's what
you said that was one of the
like it's an early death stroke.
Early death. Someone said that.
One of our trainers, one of our coaches was talking about that in a training, because what ends up happening with that is someone says, well, I like doing such and such. Like they'll think I like doing, let's say, archery on the weekends. What would be really cool is if I did archery for 50 hours a week. That's such a catastrophic jump, right? And then you think about all the things that go into business with it. So
yeah,
I'm not good. I'm good at archery. Are you good at accounting? Like, are you good at staffing? Are you good at like filling event spaces? So the thing with that is, like, you have done this really. You're kind of a unicorn in business in that you had a passion that you were good at, and then you crossed it over into a business venture, and that's pretty crazy. So was there a point where you had to like not sacrifice passion, but kind of like say, I want to do this, but I have to move here for the sake of my business?
100%. And yeah, so one of the reasons I started the gym was because I love doing jiu-jitsu, right? I love like working out. And I guess I make this joke to people. My wife doesn't think it's funny, but but I go. So I had people ask me like, well, why'd you start a gym or whatever? Well, I'm 20 years old, right? So I'm thinking, right, I get to do jiu-jitsu, I get to work out, I get to flirt with girls for 12 hours a day, right? I mean, how could life get any better? And then when you actually start running the business, none of that happens,
right? Yeah. When you're stressed out, no girls are looking at you. You're just like tunnel vision and running around like crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think you have to put things in perspective, right? Because yes, you do have to sacrifice, like, right, in order to grow the business. I can't, like, I couldn't teach or do privates or teach kids jiu-jitsu classes for 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
Even though that's what I'm passionate about and I love to do if I want to grow the business. And part of it became a mindset shift with me when I started like seeking mentorship, reading more, studying more, and learning like what the deal of a business is. I realized that, okay, if I want to run a legitimate business, and I just had a mentor say this to me the other day, was asking me like, well, what do you love to do? Just was reflecting on stuff, and something that, like, if you're really passionate or you love something, I think it actually goes back to the start, or like folds over to where you started, to where if your objective is like you're really passionate about teaching kids jiu-jitsu or doing jiu-jitsu, then part of your vision or your mission with your business should be like, how do I get to that point when I can do that?
Yeah.
So, and what I mean by that is, like, if, for an example, I go to the gym, right? If I had 10 locations and I appropriately put in systems and trained people and running the business and was profitable, we were serving and helping people, and I had everybody in the correct, you know, use organizational chart of the business or positions, whatever you want to word that as. So why couldn't, at that point, right? I don't need to do any of the you could say quotations, the boring stuff, right? I could just go around and be a visionary figure, and I just teach classes and train people if that's what I love to do.
Absolutely.
But I think it's all about what your vision and the mission of your business is. And I think sometimes when you first start the business, that's hard to grasp. And it just takes time and experience and seeking mentorship and learning for you to really kind of figure that out.
Sure.
Because I remember when I first started, usually most people when they first start a business, you do everything, and you work ridiculous amounts of time, which is what I did. And then you start, learning stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, so I'm like rabbit trailing here a little bit, but one of the easiest things too is looking at investments, right? An asset in your business, and having the right mindset about an individual or person is like when you hire people are assets, they're not liabilities. They should be anyway. They should be assets and investments. And it's like the first thing is like letting go of that control thing and realize that you're investing in your business by hiring somebody to clean your facility.
Yeah.
Because that's the easiest thing you can do, right? It's not rockets. And I'm not putting down people that clean or have cleaning businesses. That's vital. It's important. Right. It's a huge business. But for someone that is running a business or a gym or something, right, that's the easiest thing to delegate or to outsource is hire somebody to clean your facility. And now it gives you back 10, 20 hours, how OCD you are, maybe 30 hours a week, right, on just cleaning. And that's that's huge to start, for your vision and mission of your business.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a good book out called Who, Not How.
By Dan Sullivan.
Yeah, where you start looking around and saying, because I see a lot of business owners do this too. They're doing again, not that anyone's above anything necessarily,
Absolutely
but they're doing the most menial, everyday, small stuff because they bootstrapped the thing to begin with, and they are in the habit of doing all the little stuff no one else wants to do or no one else sees. And a lot of them are good-hearted people that just they don't let their staff know. They're they won't say, hey, this needs done. They're like, well, I'll just do it myself. It's like, well, your technical dollar an hour value is like $500 an hour, and you're doing a $15 an hour job. You're crippling your business by doing that week over week over week. And when I say that, I don't think people should do a business they hate. I don't think that's necessarily the case either. People just rarely are able to do a business they absolutely love, especially because of you alluded to it. There's a conception of what you're going to do in it, and it's never that way.
Right.
It's never that way. But if you do turn it into the asset that you want, that's the big difference. So someone who wants to start a business because they're tired of working a job and they like a thing is way different than what Robert Kiyosaki defines as an asset, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of the best kept secret in the middle class that it's actually easier to buy a business than it is to start one yourself, even if you have a little working capital.
Yeah. I've heard that as well too. Yeah.
Just because there's things already in place. You usually get it, if you're good at negotiating, you usually get it at a sane discount. And
you have cash flow.
You have cash flow right away. You're usually buying a book of clients with it, or at least to some degree, which already determines your target market.
Or prospects, at least.
Or prospects, so a list is part of it. I was at a seminar last Friday, and the presenter was talking about how she was looking at a business to purchase, and the database, the CRM, was a line item for $100,000.
Okay.
So that was how much their database was worth because they had done such a good job at record keeping and drawing in a target market.
Yeah.
So it is, you shouldn't do a business you hate, but if you're also doing something, you can almost find enjoyment. You can find enjoyment in a lot of things.
Well, I think you have to be careful about maybe this as well too, making your per se always like a hobby has to become a business.
Yeah.
Right. Because you made me think about this, right? Like I really love hunting, right? By far, I'm not the best hunter. Like I like to bow hunt, right?
Sure.
But it's like all of a sudden, right, if I just decide I'm going to start an archery business, like you said, right, or I'm going to start a guided hunt business, or like making deer calls, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like just because I really love to hunt, right? Well, one, I think what that does is you no longer enjoy hunting anymore because it just became a job, right? It's not a hobby now; it's a job. And then also, you probably really don't know as much as you need to know about that hobby because it's a hobby, something to do that's fun.
Right. Absolutely.
I think that's where that fine line of, I guess, hobby and what you want to do for work kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because some things I really enjoy doing, and like I told my wife, it'd be kind of cool to own a business doing XYZ because I just really like doing it, and she's like, no, because it's not a hobby anymore. And I'm like,
right.
Yeah, my wife's right. That sounds awful because I wouldn't enjoy actually hunting or, whatever that thing is.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about all the back end stuff that you have to be good at to make a hobby real and how much you love it. And the two words that are really key to know this too for people who are like interested in starting a business or trying to figure out where their business is at in this classification of super healthy to a finished product or things like that, an asset, leverage and scale. And they're not interchangeable, but they are related. Mm-hmm. And Hormozi talks a ton about leverage. And we talked about a piece of it already, which is hiring someone else to do the jobs that lets you go be the visionary for yours, right? You'd be much better off getting a new contract with the police department to train their people or setting up a seminar for self-defense for moms than you would be scrubbing your own mats. So
Absolutely.
It's the leverage of who do I get to come in and do this, not how do I get this done. And then so leverage and scale. So a lot of businesses that are hobbies are terrible for scaling. I mean, even coaching isn't great for scaling. So you have to really ask yourself, like, anything that's franchised is scalable. Food service, even though the margins aren't crazy good, but you
scalable.
But you have two locations, and you're looking at leveraging the internet now for yours, which is huge.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but something you just made me think about this is with, and this is kind of crazy thing about too, even like in my business, like I have a manager, right? And I have a front desk person, okay? So just like to back up what you're saying, it's kind of cool, not cool because I wish it didn't matter, but it does matter, right? But so someone calls in to buy a membership, right? The front desk, they have all the pricing, stuff like this, and maybe you can give them a special deal, whatever, right? And they're kind of like, well, I don't know, I want to sign up, right? All of a sudden the manager calls them. They say, hey, this is, so-and-so manager of Lashley Training Center. And it's like all of a sudden, like, yeah, that sounds like a really good deal, even if it's the same deal or close to what the front desk. And it's like if I call them, right, it's like, hey, this is the owner of Lashley Training Center. And it's like, now it's like, yeah, I would do this or XYZ, or it's that what you talk about with scaling with time and stuff. It's interesting how that perspective or the word of like admin, manager, owner, like affects when you talk about leveraging, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Leveraging a sale or something along those lines.
Yeah, the interesting thing with that too is like, so we do a thing in Action Coach called divide to multiply. So any sales process, I'll use mine for an example. So we have basically a 3-touch sales process. It's really like an initial sit-down coffee with a questionnaire that we mm-hmm. review it on a second call, the questionnaire, and then we do a strategy session to basically see ultimately where they want to go, get really honed in on their results and goals. Which, by the way, if you're not writing down your goals, only 3% of people write down their goals. That's a huge one up to just be able to write down your goals every day. If you in a 3-step sales process, you can only enhance those 3 steps to the nth degree before they're maxed out. Mm-hmm. We broke ours down into 13 steps. So all the touches before, in between, after. Are we sending a postcard for this? Are we sending an email for this? Are we sending a video to keep people warm for this? Mm-hmm. So if you have 13 parts, and then you enhance all 13, and then recompile, and that's the definition of holistic, right? That's every single aspect you can do. Now, you don't want to just break everything down to the point of such redundancy that it's stupid and you can't do anything with it.
Right.
But if your sales process or your customer interaction isn't at least 7 steps, it's probably too short.
Absolutely.
And with that, like you're saying, it is a matter of leverage, but there's also like SOPs, standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
If you, the purpose of a system should be to make the front desk person, whoever's job it is, they're the best at that job, right? So sales is a transfer of belief, and that front desk person, whoever handles the phone, the reason the owner, you see a lot of times the owner gets on the phone because they have the highest belief. Right. They founded the company, right? So if anyone's going to close the customer into the product, it's going to be the owner. Right. So there's a lot, people think that training is just like, hey, do this, but it's really like also a transfer of the owner's belief to that other person, so that when that person answers, they have the conviction in their voice, because it's a subtle thing. It's a soft skill. It's not like I know how to close people. It's like I have the conviction in me from the owner to close people.
Yeah, and the conviction that the place I'm working for, the thing I offer, is truly amazing or
life-changing,
the best,
where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's a really good point.
So another question for you that I wanted to ask is, kind of goes without saying that there's mental toughness in martial arts, right? And you come from a long pedigree of martial arts. You've done some fights.
Yeah.
What can you pinpoint, quantify any specific moments or skills, times that you've been like, I don't know if I would have made that choice if it weren't for the martial arts background, like a mental toughness moment where you're just like, I had that extra little bit, or a quality that you think you've gained from that really helped in business?
I would say so. So when you talk about martial arts and wrestling, fighting, stuff like that, and definitely at some point you're going to be extremely uncomfortable if you do it long enough. That is,
like 5 minutes.
Maybe
depends on who you're fighting.
Maybe at least 10. So yeah, I think the thing is like when. Like there's a lot that I'm thinking about. I'm trying to narrow my thoughts down here. I probably see the best example is when, like, I can specifically remember a time when I was still like a white belt. I think I was like a 16, 17-year-old, like competing in a tournament, and you're talking about mental toughness, right? And mental toughness or discipline is just pushing past the point of accepting failure or pain, whatever that external force is, that you're going to kind of maybe per se let this win or let it hold you back from completing something. And like with jiu-jitsu or when I was competing, right, you're getting like held down in an awful position. The match is I think this one specifically was like 8 minutes. It's an 8-minute round, 7 or 8 minutes. And you're basically got reversed, like tight on points now, and you're tired. This other guy's tired, but he's also now holding you down like in an awful position. And then you just look at the clock, right? There's still like 4 minutes left or 3 minutes left. So that's like an eternity. And you're sitting there and you think about like just, it's like almost like a flash of like what am I going to do right now?
Yeah.
Right. The easy part would be that I could sit here, we're tied. I could, try to catch my breath and relax and just try to, whatever. Or it's like I'm gonna suck it up and like this guy, this external force, this external pressure is not going to beat me right now, and I'm gonna push through being uncomfortable to accomplish or win something.
Yeah,
and that happens all the time. Like on the mats, we think about just learning how to breathe and being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Sure.
Is I think really important. Is what martial arts teaches you, and so. Yeah, yes, I would say so. Like answering your question, and I apologize, I can't remember. I was rabbit trailed off there a little bit. That's where I wanted to go with that.
I wanted to hear a fight story.
A fight, yeah. So I remember being like held down, and I remember it was I think Luke Zachary was coaching me. She's a former like UFC fighter. Because I trained at Ronin in Columbus. And so that was like a place we cross-trained. That's who gave my dad and essentially our black belts is from Vitor Oliveira from Ronin in Columbus. But I remember I think Luke Zachary was coaching me that match. There was like a bunch of people going or whatever. And I remember I'm in that bad position and I'm like looking at the clock and I look at him. He's staring at me, right? And he's like, I remember him yelling this, Ian, this sucks right now, but you can, insert derogatory word, breathe, and you're gonna get up and you're gonna win, right? I remember him just like saying, something along those lines, right? And it's like, yeah, this sucks, but I can do this, right? And that's that mental toughness that you work for, you train with, and that like martial arts helps you develop.
Sure. And
you just keep pushing. You do what you're supposed to, even when you're tired. You frame in, you shrimp, get back up, fight to a neutral position, and then work your takedown, whatever, reversal for the points.
Yeah.
So I did win that match.
Yeah, you did. I can already tell. I can already tell. Yeah. So I'm fascinated by, I guess you could call it the quality of obsession. So there's this like dual-edged sword in American work culture now, where there's the grind. There's very much the Hormozy method of like, I just work because I work. It's what I do, right? You're just a Clydesdale pulling stuff all day long.
Yeah.
And there's a level of like people. I think it's there's something to be said for industriousness, achievement, excelling. I'm for that, very much for that. There's also kind of a counter movement now towards too, where like there's like mental health concerns. There's, you know, you have a family. There's all kinds of things where it's like also balance, right? And it's one thing if you're choosing to do that. The problem is I think some people, especially young people, are kind of confused about what they really want, and they get priorities mixed up or confused, or they end up putting themselves in a bad spot because they commit to something, or they fail at something, and it becomes, you know, kind of permanent to their identity.
Yeah.
But I'm a Kobe Bryant fan of that mentality as well, where it's like
The Mamba mentality.
yeah, just the obsession he had to win. And I think people kind of don't categorize this correctly either. Like, very rare breeds of people that are doing this kind of stuff too. And we have the unfortunate blessing of having the internet and cell phones now, where you can see the literal top tier of every single person in every single category of making money, sports, this industry, that industry. And you get to play the comparison game at a whole new level now mentally, which can be dangerous.
I think it can be super dangerous to constantly compare yourself.
Yeah. It's good to get inspiration from.
Correct.
But it's a pretty thin line. You got to be careful with. So one thing that I'm also I'm very curious about is people, like, I remember this Joe Rogan quote I think of often is, you know, something along the lines of, "What do you do when you're tired?" Like at 5 a.m. the alarm goes off, and some people can do a day or 2 days of running every single morning, but alarm goes off and you're tired at 5 a.m. So let's just say you had the worst day of business ownership you can imagine, and it was
which I've had
I know
before.
you're picturing right now. The worst day of business ownership you can imagine. You go to bed that night knowing the next day is going to be pretty similar, because there's not just one off days. Usually it's like a series of stuff, right? So you go to bed that night, you wake up the next morning on 4 hours of sleep or less. When that alarm goes off, what thought do you reach for to put your feet on the floor?
The thought that I reach for, that's a really good question. So I think one of the biggest things is reaching for the Bible, honestly, and making it faith-based. I think God gives us the strength to endure all things. So I would say that would be my primary answer. So draw from that.
Yeah.
And to and one of the things as well too, my wife says this a lot, if it is it going to matter in 5 years, right? And if it doesn't matter, how big of a deal? If it's not going to matter in 5 years, like how big of a deal is it?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Maybe because most of those really awful, horrific days and things like that, right? Well, I've had one probably 5 years ago, right? And I mean, I can remember it, right? But was it really that big of a deal?
Right.
No, well, you just gotta wake up and put your cowboy boots on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Go milk the cows.
Get the work done.
Yeah. So, I guess that would maybe be my answer is just to know that having all faith and enduring all things, and that, you know, stuff's gonna work out.
Yeah.
And you just keep pushing through it.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
Absolutely.
I guess I didn't really have a super fancy answer.
It's not supposed to be fancy.
Yeah.
There's nothing fancy at 4 a.m. when you have to
there's not.
There's nothing fancy about it.
You have kids. I mean, obviously you have kids, and so I remember Eden did not sleep until she was basically 2 years old. So, you know, I remember there being issues with staff members, with like a staff member. Basically, they just like quit and had a bunch of issues like within the staff and stuff at the gym. You know, landlord comes in, had an issue with like a building all this stuff, and then like our daughter slept like 2 hours that night, and you're just like, how are you going to make it through this day?
Yeah.
And it's just you just take it one minute at a time, 1 second at a time, and have faith.
Yeah. I know some people that keep hourglasses on their, like the sand timers on their desk, because you can only pass 1 minute through it at a time.
Oh yeah.
So it's every minute's just by itself, and I think we inflict pain on ourselves by saying I do all this to do today.
Right. 100%.
And you're just like compounding your pain by being like, why would you take all that one time? Let's just do the one thing we have to do. And I find too that a lot of the stuff that I think is going to be a drudgery, like I'm going to hate doing this, after like 5 minutes, I'm like, this is actually not that bad. You know,
or
you
it
get the
doesn't
flow.
it doesn't take you as long as it takes you to actually do it. What you think you're like, oh, it's gonna freaking take me like 3 hours today. I got to do X, Y, Z, and then like you sit down and do it, or you start working on it and you have it done like in 30 minutes.
Yep.
It's like, okay, I made this 10 times worse on myself.
Yeah,
What it needed to be.
it's crazy too. I can't think of anything that humans do better at when they're tense and nervous and rigid, right?
Right.
Maybe an extreme survival situation where you have adrenaline.
A saber-toothed
pumping
tiger
through your
is
vein. When
trying
you're
to
running
chase
for
you.
your life.
Yeah.
At that point, I might opt for insane bursts of energy.
Right.
But fighting, case in point, anybody who fights or ice skates, all the thing you're using gross muscle movements because you haven't fine-tuned the muscles yet to you can't block or parry for anything when you first start fighting. It's all just giant movements, wasting energy, because it's natural, it's reflexive. It's similar to business. You get in business and you're overreacting to a bunch of stuff. It's like 5 years or probably like the next 6 months, it's not going to matter. So I have to several times a day come back to a state of being grounded, because I'm like, whatever energy I'm bringing into this activity, if it's not grounded, patient energy, I'm probably going to make it worse, not better.
Yeah.
To some degree, I will get it done, but I might make the situation tougher than it needs to be by just coming in tense and rigid rather than just being like, relax, we'll get through it.
Yeah, I hope everybody that just heard you say that takes that advice, because I think it's super important. 'Cause I can think about back when I first started with things that I thought were huge issues, right? That it's like, now I'm like, if I really went back and reflected on like all these things I thought were huge issues, I'm like, wow, I wasted so much energy and gave myself so much tenseness or worry about something that it really was not freaking that big of a deal whatsoever.
Yeah, the part that's really good to keep in mind, I think, with that is people are the answer to it as well. Like people who can solve it for you, or just being a decent human to the other people involved, right?
Yeah.
Because that tense, rigid behavior causes you to be short with people, be
Absolutely.
frustrated, and that triggers them also to kind of be that. They feed off the energy. So people in business, the only way I've seen to get money in the world is through other people, because people carry money.
Yeah.
No one else has got money. Nothing else has money. So really how you interact with a person, and the kind of what you were saying before, like your brand is how you treat people as a human. And if you're relaxed, calm, patient, like especially consistently, people will feel that. And I've seen it happen in sports and business where very quickly the calmest person in the room becomes the leader.
Absolutely.
Right? The one who takes the least amount of offense and the one who's the most controlled and patient with the emotions in the room. They're the one people start deferring to be like, okay, this person's going to solve it. They know what's going on.
Yeah. And I think it is especially true when you're dealing with staff or like team members, employees, whatever you want to call them, that the consistency with that, which is the things that I may have struggled with off and on, right? Because you got so many things going on and you find yourself maybe, being a little bit too worried about certain things or letting it affect being consistently patient with people.
Yeah.
You have to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Because it does affect it can affect your team.
Yep.
There probably is necessary ways to, like, if someone's not doing their job and they're being ridiculous and they haven't done their job, like, okay, you might have to tear into them a little bit, or like, let's, what's going on here. But for the most part, being consistent and patient and level-headed with things.
Yeah, that's also what like SOPs are for, like systems and processes, because you can always, if it's by the book, no one can dispute it. Like if it's put in place beforehand of like, hey, this is a disciplinary action that happens when this happens, and this is a disciplinary action when this happens, and you follow the process, it's very impartial, right? It's very unbiased. It's like, it's all in the book. Anybody can go get the binder off the shelf. I did it dispassionately. I didn't have any, like, I wasn't riled up or upset with you. This is what happened. This is what's supposed to happen. It's the expectation to every single person here. It's unfair to them for me not to, because you're bringing the team down right now.
Yeah. And I think even with job responsibilities, I think one of the biggest things that I feel like our gym, or like our business, does a really good job of this now, because I made it a point, is like when you have a position or someone's doing a job, is a checklist. And checklist isn't job responsibilities, but it's a good metric to, like, here's like the main kind of killer items that you need to do on a routine basis, or they need to get done, but then a job responsibilities list.
Yep.
Because if you have that written down, they look at it, I make my people sign them. So I say, no, you really like they looked at it. Okay, did you look at this? And then sometimes I even will physically read every single line item to them anyway.
Sure.
And do you have any questions about this?
Sure.
And then I want you to read it one more time, and then I want you to sign it. And
Yep.
Because then there's no gray area, right?
Yep.
Like if that was part of your job responsibility, and an issue came up, you're responsible for it to handle it, and you should take ownership and deal with it or whatever. And if you didn't, then okay, I got to give you feedback on, hey, you're not doing your job correctly. You're in this area, and
Absolutely,
we need to let people make mistakes and coach them, help them figure out how to fix it, whatever. And it's not like they need wrote up every single time something happens, but it turns into a clear communication, to address like this was your job responsibility.
Yeah.
How are you going to do this better in the future?
Yeah, and I think there's a pretty large misconception too that I've seen, because I was in recruiting for quite a while, where no one wants to work.
What was that?
No one wants to work. The people are
right.
Yeah, the boomers, and that's the perception, and it's erroneous, because almost anything you say in that term, it's like nobody really. But I think Gallup released a poll. I'm not going to, please don't quote me on the exact stat, but I think it's something like 47% of exit interviews in companies were attributed to the fact that employees are unclear on what they're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. Which means they're living, what you got to think what that creates is a state of anxiety every Friday night where they're like, I don't know if I'm doing my job right. Yeah. I don't know if they like me. I don't know if they're going to keep me for another month, because I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to, but there isn't anything written down that shows me, so good on you for that. that's a huge stress relief for you.
So when I first started, though, I remember, I would get mad if somebody, like, I had a personal trainer or whatever that, like, I thought, I maybe told them that I kind of expected, like, hey, you got to do X, Y, Z or this. And, like, I'd get mad or like, what is this freaking person doing, right? Like, they should be doing this. And then, I started to realize, like, I don't know if I'm actually telling them this. Yeah. Or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
or, like, I'm almost assuming that they know I'm expecting them to do X, Y, Z or do this part of in the personal training thing or whatever. And it's like I am taking a very wrong approach to this, because I did it wrong for a while. Let me preface saying I'm not perfect at it, 'cause I definitely did it wrong
but you learned
for a
from
while.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And when you have kids, you start to realize, like, how many things are not hardwired in. Like, how many times you have to be like, hey, chew with your mouth closed, right? Yeah. And you find out that when you have staff, they're partners with you in your business, because they're representing your brand as well. Yeah. But you also have to train them some of the training is repetition. Some of it's just having hey, you're responsible. In Action Coach, we have like one of our most famous charts or diagrams is called the point of power. Okay. So there's if you can imagine a line straight across. Below the point is blame, excuse, and denial. So there's no power in that section. It's victim mentality. It's denial's usually minimizing. It's not usually like, oh, this isn't a problem at all. It's usually I go to the gym sometimes, or I don't eat that bad, or I pay most of my bills. Right?
Pay most of your bills.
My money. I'm only taking out $1,000 a month in credit card debt, right? So you minimize it, and then above the line would be ownership, accountability, responsibility. And responsibility is I'll get the job done. Accountability is I get the job done to X standard, right? And ownership is I'll get the job done and I'll help people. I'll show people. I'll be the example. So what you're saying...
That's a really good way to put it.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's super good. I like that. Yeah. I'm totally going to steal that.
I can get you a poster. Yeah. So for you, like, they have this in the military where, like, okay, captain's on deck. They are responsible for the steering of the ship. And if they have to go to sleep, which humans do, they go below deck, and the person they put in charge is responsible to steer the ship, but the captain's still accountable even when they're sleeping, right? Okay. So there's tiers to it of, like, and you can see people move through it, blame, excuse, denial, all the way up into the point of power and deciding, and that's where the power comes from. You cannot do anything until you're above the point. Like, you literally cannot grow. And this was, I've talked to people who went through COVID. It's pretty easy to excuse things and blame other people when you're going through COVID as a business owner, because stuff changed overnight. Yeah. All humans are hardwired, again, emotional survival, hardwired to make excuses and blame and participate in denial, because we've watched it in our parents. We watched it in our leaders as we were growing up, because it's a natural human instinct to protect your emotional subset, your identity. which is really important because I have in the past tended to beat myself up. I'm growing out of it. But it's good to know that you can't just like, if you're down there below the point, you can't just like harass yourself back above the point. It's going to compound it. It has to be a question. You have to ask yourself a question. The easiest, most generic one you can always ask is, what can I take ownership of right now? Because then you're setting all that stuff aside and say, what can I own right now to move myself back above the point of power and take responsibility for something?
Yeah, I like that a lot. You have to send me one of those posters, baby. Yeah.
We've been using it for 30 years. I hope it stood the test of time by now. So.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, you probably read like the Extreme Ownership by like Jock, because that's just a really simple way to explain it. How you explained it. And,
yep, absolutely. Yeah, and my wife, by her personality, is really good at asking questions. I've had to bring myself along because I'm usually the one of your employees who like glances at the page and signs my name, and you're like, "Did you read it?" I'm like, "Yes." You're like, "Let me read it to you." I'm like, "I guess if you have to." So I'm the type of person that's like, "Let's move to the next thing," and I've slowed down to realize the quality of your questions. Like I like to do this thing sometimes with business owners where it's called thinking with constraints. So you give yourself a goal, and then whatever goal that is, you do the thought exercise of, okay, if I want to make X number of revenue this month, what if I could only do it with half the clients? What if I could only do it with half the time? What if, for whatever reason, and not that you have to do it that way, but now your brain starts doing stuff that you wouldn't. I need my 60 hours to hit that goal. Do you? Or could you do it in 30? Let's just think about it. And then you start, that's where you're in between that, asking that question and figuring out the answer is where you find a new system in your business or a new product that solves something you didn't even know you needed.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, it just maybe we're making some like a staff adjustments and stuff, or like working on different things. And that just made me think about, I kind of thought about that like a couple weeks ago. It was like, with certain things, with balance due reports and like some of the stuff, like why am I having people do this certain report, right? Or run it or call people, or why do I have to do it that way?
Yeah.
I had someone else, another guy in business I was talking to, brought up the Toyota, the 5 Whys. I may be butchering what it's called, this theory or whatever.
Lean business model.
Yeah, but you ask when you have something, ask
why 5 times. Gets to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Root cause analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets. If you want to be unpopular in a board meeting, you can ask why 5 times. I think that's why they poisoned Socrates, actually, as he kept asking why.
That's funny.
This guy's got to go. He's destabilizing our society. Yeah, root cause analysis is crazy, which the funny thing is, too, most of the time, you almost always come to a point where the root cause analysis shows, because it's an outdated model, we've always done it this way, or people. It's something that someone believes, something that someone... I mean, you've probably heard this too, where people like sales reps who make $50K a year or $60K a year, and they're given a huge they're promoted because they did such a good job, and they tank that territory back to $60K in their earnings, or they're given a small territory and they raise it back up to $60K in their personal earnings.
Yeah, it's like no matter what they're selling, they just
internal thermostat.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm worth this. And a lot of times it traces back to like, this is what I saw my dad make, or so they have the opportunity around them, and how to get past that is questions. Why do I only make $60K a year? Or, I mean, I've been so far as like recently researching hypnosis and how it affects the subconscious mind and what it actually means. And one of the most interesting parts I found about it so far is hypnosis doesn't exist by brain studies. It's not actually a real thing.
Okay.
And the reason that's so trippy is because it's not a real thing because it's something the mind does already.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the people that do hypnosis are just basically using potentially the way the brain works to
already.
Interesting. But it's just they just make it look fancy when they dangle like a stopwatch in front of their face or something.
I mean, there's all the like snake oil salesman associations of it where people they've sensationalized it, right?
But it's just basically psychology, right? You're walking them through psychology.
I mean, it's actually so basic. It's the reason they have to dress it up is it's kind of not exciting when you actually look at what it is. So like the word trance is super out there, but really, like, have you ever pulled in your driveway and not remember the last 5 minutes of your drive?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's a trance.
Or you're driving down the road and
you can't
all of a sudden it's like, what was I doing for 5 minutes?
Yeah. Or you rewind a show because you're like, you're sitting right there, but you missed the show.
Right.
Trance. The difference is when you can do self-hypnosis, so you can do it on purpose, or you can have someone help you do it, which is what we see. And that is going to a state of relaxation and calm. They're not actually asleep. So it's the state of relaxation and calm. So your brain operates on brain waves, as we know, and they're faster and tighter or looser and more relaxed.
Yeah.
Alpha is the tightest. Beta is actually what TV puts you in.
Okay.
More suggestible.
So people, when they actually watch TV,
Change brain waves.
Yeah, they're changing brain
They're
waves.
vegging out.
That is wild.
So it's a light form of trance.
Yeah.
Because it makes you more suggestible, which is exactly what hypnosis is relaxing you and calming you to the point that you can receive suggestions easier. So the deepest state is theta, which you really only reach through meditation. And that's really, I mean, it's the difference is like I've reached theta through meditation, but it takes me 30 minutes. Right?
Yeah, I was going to say it probably takes a while.
But a hypnotist is trained to get you there like immediately.
Interesting.
And the difference is it takes your conscious mind and says, hey, gatekeeper, which is all your conscious mind is deciding what the subconscious gets. It says, hey, gatekeeper, you need to go to sleep for a little bit. We're taking that part away, and we're going to talk directly to the subconscious, which is why it's so huge in therapy now, or getting bigger in therapy, because you can, if you believe it, go straight into belief systems and alter them like on the spot, like same day change of like you only make 60K to like you can see yourself making 120K.
In that state, you're saying?
Yeah, in that state.
Yeah.
And case in point with that, I did it myself the other day where I was self-induced. And I've seen myself speaking on stage for a long time. I've had kind of like waking visions of myself on stage.
Yeah.
And I realized as I was in that state, I guess my brain, if you want to say it this way, offered it up to me. It was like you realize that you're watching yourself speak on stage. You're not seeing through the eyes of the speaker, you're seeing through the eyes of the audience still. Do you realize there's a disconnect there? You're two people and you're deferring to the audience member still. And I was like, dude, I got to change this.
That's interesting.
So in the hypnosis, I use the truth, and suggest. And I said, here's me now as the speaker. And I actually felt my vision flicker between and change to the speaker. And it was so clear I could feel the remote for the slide deck in my hand was how exact it was. I could see the whole audience out there. So you can alter belief sets. And is it perfect? I mean, does it happen every time? Or I don't know. It's that point yet. But it's huge. And everything you take, your whole belief set you take into business affects every interaction you have and every dollar you make.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, somebody say, too, if you're into business to make money, you'll make money. But if you're into impact people, you'll impact people and potentially do both. So it's how you view it as well, your mission.
Yeah. I mean, Zig Ziglar, his famous quote, like, the more people you help get what they want, guarantees that you get what you want.
Right.
So, yeah, you have to be service-oriented, which is tough for people, too, I think, because especially getting into business for a hobby. You're there because you're thinking it's innocuous and benign, but you're really there for a selfish reason. You're there to do more what you like.
Well, that's a different way to look at it, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Instead of sharing something with somebody else or like providing a service, right, where you're like, some of the best businesses have come out of there's a need in the marketplace, right? And Hermosi's cool with this too because he always says like two of the things you can always do is like, well, one thing for sure is convenience. How fast can you do it?
Yeah.
Right? The reason Netflix beat Blockbuster is like, I'll have to leave your house. You can do it right here.
Yeah.
You don't even have to rewind it.
Right.
You don't have to put it in. You can just turn it on and it's there.
You don't even have to hit the next button for the next episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about easy. Turn it on, hit one button, it's loaded, and you're good.
Yeah, you can sit there for 3 days.
Yeah. It'll last if you're still good. They need to put a feature in where they can do like a home check, like a wellness check if it doesn't move for 3 days. But yeah, convenience is almost always, like speed to delivery and convenience almost always win in the marketplace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is why the internet's so cool because like you're going online with some stuff now, which means people can in their own home learn martial arts.
Right.
Super cool. Because there is a level of like getting over the fact that I'm going to go to a place, meet strangers, and probably throw punches today. That's a lot to stomach sometimes.
I think even with fitness too is still I mean, if you want the best results possible, go to a gym.
Definitely.
I mean, probably everybody knows that, but then, there's that convenience, other issues with, like, leaving their house, the whole 9 yards. So, if you pull up an app on your phone, click, start jiu-jitsu lesson, like, oh, look, it's right there, and grab your husband or your dog and doing arm bars to your dog. In your living room, you're like, this is amazing.
The arm's the other way, but, you can adjust it. So My brother's actually about to get his black belt in jiu-jitsu.
I thought you said that.
Yeah, and probably half of his training was just watching videos and drilling off of YouTube and apps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, he went after it much harder and faster than most people do. But it's those things, even with Kobe, where, I mean, shooting free throws is, in some ways, is technical, but it's like you can do that over and over and over and over and over. So if you really want a black belt, just drill. It's all, the information is all there for you. It's just like commit to it and obsess over it and be good at it. So the repetition. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions or anything? I know we're getting kind of low on time here.
No, I think I've asked my main ones that I wanted to know from Ian Lashley. Yeah.
What's your number one book recommendation? Do you have a book recommendation? Do you like to share?
I mean, I love books. I traffic in books, man. So Psycho-Cybernetics is fantastic. It's where I got onto a lot of the hypnosis stuff. A guy by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, was a plastic surgeon and is really credited with discovering self-image in the 1960s. And I won't go into all that because I'm geeked out by that book, Psycho-Cybernetics.
Okay.
But it's huge for sales, it's huge for relationships, and it's huge for business. And then the other one that I really love is Atomic Habits.
That's a good one.
James Clear. I've read that at least twice. He's actually a local boy. He graduated Denison, was a baseball player there.
I didn't realize he graduated from Denison.
I think he still lives in Columbus.
Okay, interesting.
But yeah, Atomic Habits is crazy because it's basically human behavior on convenience. So it's like, how do you shove away the bad habits and bring in more of the good? And honestly, like if you're the sum of your habits, then if you can manipulate that successfully, you can really set yourself up for a good life.
Oh, absolutely.
What about you? Book Rex?
I would say, I'm trying to think here. I just read, again, the 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson.
Okay. Not read it yet.
Yeah, so basically, if you want to give me a summarization of that, just go to the last chapter on every single chapter in his book and listen to that chapter, read that chapter, and you can basically get the gist of the book.
Nice.
And it's worth, but there's a lot. Like it's honestly a hard read, I think. Anyway,
he's super intellectual.
Correct. So it's a hard read, but the 12 rules are super good. I just read. I know I'm thinking of books I just read recently. I read Build a Business You Love by Dave Ramsey.
Okay.
Dave Ramsey. Kind of think Dave Ramsey as like the don't use credit cards and don't do anything and save your money and all this stuff, but. Dude, that Build the Business You Love by Dave Ramsey, that was good.
Yeah.
Really good.
I mean, he's built a huge business. So.
Yeah. That one was really good. More of a, I know we're kind of talking about psychology and how you think. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw that one out there.
That's old school.
That's just, 1900. What did he write that in? 1902 or something, or 1901?
Yeah, you can tell by the language.
As a man thinketh. Yeah.
It's great though.
But I'll maybe just throw those. I'll throw those three out there.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Well, thanks for coming in. I appreciate this.
It's a good talk.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share your email, website, phone number, all three.
Yeah, you can reach out to me if you want to call or text 740-957-4474. Email is Caleb Oakes. Oakes is Oakes at actioncoach.com. And my YouTube channel is launching now is Beyond the Bottom Line.
Which I think is a really cool YouTube name, man.
Appreciate it.
So go check him out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, give us a good review on wherever you listen to this podcast. If you don't want to give us a good review, then don't give us a review. If you believe it,
don't even put it in there.
if you believe it, you can achieve it. I can't wait to see you guys in the gym. Have a great day, everybody.